Welcome back, designers. Let's just jump right in, shall we? Today, we are stepping into the studio for the ultimate capstone explainer for Class 25. This isn't just another theory session. This is the moment where literally everything we've covered over the last 24 classes comes together. We're setting the tone of a high-end, professional design studio today. Think of the exacting standards you'd find at top institutes like NIFT or NIFT. You're going to take all that foundational knowledge and finally build your very first comprehensive, professional-grade design project from the ground up. Let's do this.
Okay, looking at our agenda, which is basically our masterclass syllabus today, we'll do a quick review of the foundation of design, walk through the 6-step process, jump into a practical demo, figure out how to avoid mistakes, and then wrap it all up with assessment and portfolio.
Starting off with Section 1, Foundation of Design.
We're starting right at the absolute bedrock. You literally cannot build a skyscraper without a solid foundation. And you definitely can't design a cohesive garment without mastering the basics. Let's recap our foundational toolkit. Remember, elements are our building blocks and principles are the rules we use to arrange them. Think of the 5 elements, line, shape, form, texture, and color, as the raw physical materials you've got in front of you. But obviously, a pile of materials isn't a garment yet, right? That's exactly where our 5 principles step in: balance, proportion, rhythm, emphasis, and harmony. These principles are the universal laws that dictate how to arrange those elements so the final silhouette looks totally stunning on a human body.
All right, moving into Section 2, the 6-step design process.
This is the exact pipeline professional designers use to bring an idea to life. We're moving from just knowing the rules to actually playing the game. The steps are concept, reference, elements, principles, sketch, and final presentation. Now, the absolutely crucial thing here is that you must never, ever rush this workflow. Each of these 6 steps is equally vital to creating a cohesive garment. I mean, you wouldn't try to build the roof before pouring the concrete, right? Same deal here. You can't jump straight into sketching without a concept, and you can't jump into your final presentation without refining your elements and principles. So let's break these down one by one.
Every great design starts with a crystal clear concept. Maybe you got inspired by the rigid geometric lines of modern architecture, or, I don't know, the delicate organic veins of a fallen leaf in your garden. Inspiration is literally everywhere if you just keep your eyes open. But here's the golden rule. Write down your goal in one single sentence before you do anything else. Are you making a flowing, casual summer dress inspired by ocean waves? Great, write that down. That one sentence becomes your absolute compass for the entire project.
Now for Step 2, reference and inspiration. Designing without a reference is pretty much like traveling without a map. Once you have your one-sentence concept, you need visual anchors. But you've got to beware of visual clutter. Gather traditional Indian textiles, Western silhouettes, or nature photography, whatever really fits your idea, but limit your mood board to just 2 or 3 strong, highly focused images. If you pull in 20 different pictures, your final garment is going to look like 20 different conflicting ideas fighting for attention. And trust me, no client wants to wear a chaotic argument. Keep it super focused.
Here's where we compare Step 3, the elements, with Step 4, the principles. You really have to separate the raw materials of your design from the rules that dictate how they harmonize. Step 3 is all about establishing the actual physical structure. Are you using straight, formal lines or soft, flowing curves? What's the overall silhouette going to be? Once you've got that physical shape locked in, then you move to Step 4 and apply the principles. Check your work, Is the left side balanced with the right? Is the proportion of the sleeves appropriate for the length of the skirt? Remember, structure always comes before arrangement.
Which brings us to Section 3, Practical Design Demonstration.
Let's step up to the drawing board and see how this builds from a totally blank page to a finished sketch. Time to make this theory visual. Treat your sketch paper like a true professional workspace. When you first put pencil to paper, use a very, very light touch. You're just mapping out the base silhouette right now. Please don't worry about the intricate embroidery, the buttons, or the exact folds of the fabric yet. By keeping your strokes light, you give yourself the total freedom to adapt, erase, and correct the foundational form before you commit to any heavy details. Let's look at adding a focal point. It is absolutely fascinating how a single, strong focal point anchors the viewer's eye way better than visual clutter. Say you want to add some really heavy detailing. Well, if you put heavy embroidery on the neckline, and the sleeves, and the hem, and the waist, the eye has literally nowhere to rest. It's honestly exhausting to look at. But if you place a distinct, gorgeous design right at the neckline, which is your principle of emphasis, it instantly elevates the whole garment.
Everything else should just quietly support that one main attraction.
Now, when it comes to coloring your sketch, just rely on this simple rule of 3: a main color, a supporting color, and an accent color. This ensures your scheme is balanced and intentional. Think of it like this. Your main color does the heavy lifting, covering the bulk of the garment. Your supporting color creates some nice contrast and breaks up the monotony, maybe on the borders or a jacket layered over the top. And your accent color? That's your tiny pop of magic, maybe a bright thread in the embroidery or a really bold button. Sticking to this rule of 3 guarantees professional harmony every single time.
For the final polish and analysis, we're bringing the design to the finish line. Add your shading to indicate whether the fabric is a stiff, heavy brocade or a light, flowing chiffon. But hey, the work doesn't stop when you put the pencil down. By actually labeling your own finished sketch with the elements and principles you used, you train your eye to critique your own work just like a super exacting creative director. Literally draw an arrow and label your focal point. Label your main color. Prove to yourself that the theory is actually present right there on the page.
Moving on to Section 4, how to avoid mistakes. Even the best beginners stumble, so let's proactively look at the most common pitfalls in the studio. Recognizing a mistake before you make it is practically a superpower in design. The absolute biggest mistake I see is the concept trap. We all want to see quick results, right? So the temptation to just start drawing is huge. But if you jump straight into sketching without an idea, you're going to end up with a messy, directionless garment. Contrast that with writing down a clear one-sentence objective first. Like we said earlier, if you can't describe your design's purpose in one sentence, you aren't ready to sketch. A design without a concept simply lacks direction.
Next up is the decoration trap. I know I sound like a broken record, but remember, structure must always come before decoration. It is so tempting to immediately grab your brightest markers and draw heavy embroidery. But if you haven't built a solid structural silhouette and defined a single focal point first, all those beautiful colors will just look like a chaotic mess. You have to build the house before you paint it. Otherwise, your garment will completely lack professional harmony.
All right, our final section, Section 5, Assessment and Portfolio. Let's wrap up this masterclass by looking at how your final project will actually be judged and professionally presented. This is where you package all your hard work to show the world. I want you to treat this assessment rubric as your ultimate checklist. When you submit your project, it's being evaluated on several fronts: your baseline understanding, how well you utilize the elements and principles, the balance of your colors, the pure neatness of your work, and your technical accuracy. Mastering just one area isn't going to cut it. You could have a brilliant concept, but if the execution is sloppy and the page is messy, it just falls flat. It's the combination of neatness, theory, and execution that gets you the highest marks and really prepares you for the industry.
Finally, let's talk about the portfolio itself. Your portfolio is your professional identity. A messy folder with erasure marks, torn edges, and randomly sized pages screams amateur. I mean, there's no way around it. Compare that to a clean, uniform layout. Ensure every single page has the same borders. Arrange it so it tells a story. Start with your mood board and concept sense, then show your structural sketches, and end with a polished, fully colored design. This proves to whoever is looking at your portfolio that you don't just have good ideas, you have a meticulous, highly professional process.
So, you now have the exact blueprint to transition from a student of theory to a practicing professional designer. You know exactly how to start with a concept, navigate those elements and principles, avoid the common studio traps, and present a flawless final product. So hold on to these skills, keep your sketches incredibly clean, and ask yourself, are you truly ready to start building a portfolio that could land you in a top-tier studio? Because in our next module, we are diving deep into the fascinating world of color and textiles, and trust me, you will need this foundation more than ever. I'll see you next time.